grab something real quick. And sorry, I meant to grab this and kind of need the instructions too. So sorry about seeing the back of my chair for just a second. Welcome, everybody. All right. So tonight I'm going to be working on a park sling. Apparently I'm catching on a cord of some sort. And if you don't know, a park sling is one of a very popular bag to take like into theme parks like Disney, Universal, and the likes. It was released by So Sweetness, and there are two different sizes. I'm going to be working on a large size because later this year, my family is going to be going down to Epic Universe, and I want a new bag to take into Epic. And of course, if I'm going to go into Epic Universe, I want something to go with that to show what I'm using. This is my front panel that I'm using. So if you recognize, I'm a huge Toothless fan. So that's this is going to be my lining. And this is the other part of my fabric. Hey, Melody. So definitely going for the dragons. Just to show y'all what a park sling looks like. This is the small size of the park sling. This is one I made back, I think, 2019 to go down to Disney. I'm actually making the larger size this time. But this is one previously that I made. And it's great. What's great I like about this is that it has two things on the bottom. So you can switch which side you can wear it on. You can see one of my water bottle holders attached. You can definitely tell I was at Disney when I took this one. But the park sling is actually, I love using it. Yeah, I can. So just to show, this has a front pocket that has a slip pocket. So if you can see, and a zipper pocket. Welcome. It's hard to see where it starts because I use the same on the inside. Don't always use the same. Now to open the big compartment, it's actually kind of hiding by how much space you actually have in here. But it has another zipper pocket and a mesh pocket. So if you can see. Oh, it has tons of pockets. And actually in the larger one, I have made an adjustment. So if you see, this is all one panel. When I make the larger ones, this is something that is not part of the pattern, but I add yet another pocket because you can never have too many pockets. So I actually add another one on the front panel. Especially, so if you want to see the difference between the two, that shows you just how much difference there is in the size. So, but yes, I add a whole nother pocket in there. And if you know how to train your dragon, you know Toothless is supposed to be the embodiment of or the unholy offspring of lightning and death. So I had to put lightning as all my accents. My strap is actually lightning, but most of the lining of the inside is lightning. I also like blue, so that's part of that. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sewing on this today. And so I have already cut everything out. I've already interfaced it. With this one, you make your foam. It's actually inside the seam allowance. If you don't use fusible foam, you use double-sided tape. The pattern actually says Wonder Tape, But since this pattern was released, lots of things have been released since then. I think this pattern's about 10 years old, so it's one I really enjoy making. I've made multiple of these. Actually going to make one for my husband that's the Universal Monsters, hopefully, providing I can find the fabric. But the first thing you start off with is you get everything interfaced. And just to show you how the foam kind of fits in, I've already attached the foam on my front piece. So all the exterior pieces have foam attached. And if you see, it basically has, this has a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So it basically has a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. And any of the pieces that have foam also have that. So here, now, not all pieces, but most, like this one is actually it's the same size. But this does not involve any zippers or anything like that. So that's why it does not need it out of the seam allowance. All the pieces that have anything to do with zippers, you take it out of the seam allowance so that it doesn't catch and it's not so thick around the zippers. I have not trimmed it all out before, and then you have issues. So this is the back of my bag. So just if you want to see what my strap will look like over top of that. So today I'm going to start prepping the insides. In other words, doing the 2 zipper pockets, the mesh pocket, and the slit pocket. So if you saw in this one that I've got completed, and you do have a strap to have at the top, the front pocket, if you can see, has a slit pocket and a zipper pocket. The back pocket has a zipper pocket and a mesh pocket. So you have lots of pockets. That's 4 pockets, and then I'm adding one more on the front here. So right now I got 5 pockets plus the actual big compartments, which are more pockets, which makes 7. So if you want to think about it that way, so there's between 6 and 7 pockets no matter what you do. Now I have different things. I do have to show off. Now, I know if you've watched me before, I have all kinds of interesting zipper pulls. Yes, I have toothless zipper pulls. I have some that are rainbow, and I have some that are black and white. My inside ones and that front accent one are rainbow. But the ones for my big compartments are one's black and one's white to represent the light fury and the night fury. If you know if you're following me for what I do. So today we are going to get basically I'm going to show you how to do a zipper pocket done how Sarah from So Sweetness does them. And she does this in a lot of her bags. We are going to get the mesh pocket attached and the slit pocket attached. And then we'll see where we're at that point, if I get any more done tonight. And if not, we'll finish it later. I'm going to go ahead and move y'all to the sewing machine. Okay, so just to start off with, I went ahead and prepped both of my zipper pockets. So when you do this, you mark your top. So if you have something that's directional, you have your top of your fabric. Now, if it's directional, I'm going to tell you that you want to make sure that your top is actually upside down. And that's something I've learned because sometimes I like using like the dragons on the inside. If I open my pocket, oh, look, there's dragons. I had just enough of the lining fabric, so I didn't. So it's just going to be kind of blend in. But you measure down by what that says. And what we're going to do, we basically have made a box. And I've done this for both. And depending on the size you're making, you go up a certain amount from the bottom to center our zipper pocket. So these are our zipper pocket panels. So what I'm going to do is going to go ahead and sew the box that we made, which is a 1/2 inch by, I think, 7 inches box. Okay. So we're going to get started. Now, hopefully everybody had a good Christmas. Then I had a few weeks off, but considering Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve were on Wednesdays, so we're back to the grindstone. So I am going to leave my needle down, pivot, and we're going to sew all 4 sides of this. And then I'm going to go ahead and sew the other one, and then I can explain what we're doing for the next part. Okay, so we're going to turn it. Okay. Just so you can see it, if you can see, there's my box on the back side. So I'm going to make sure all my pins are out. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and sew the other one. Now, this is the same step for both of them. So you can go ahead and prep both pieces at the same time. Where it differs is whether you're doing the slip pocket or the mesh pocket. Now, with the larger bag, it does not say to, but I find it's better to actually divide the mesh pocket once you've got it basted on, because otherwise it sags down a lot. So, like if you want to store your phone chargers, waters, whatever in there, it'll actually hold up or stand up a little better. But the patterns actually say you can use like Annie's Soft and Stable. You can use any type of foam. You just got to remember that if it's like Pellon, that's the like sew in. You're going to need twice as much because it's not as wide as like the Soft and Stable, which is a full like 56 inches wide. So you can also use fusible. And I normally just do the double-sided tape, or Wonder Tape. But I actually had some fusible on hand enough to do this, so I did that, and I used my heat press to attach it. Okay, and I'm gonna switch y'all back here. So now we have so you can see it really well. Now I'm going to show you one way you can do this. You can actually take a line, basically a 1/4 inch, and draw a line stopping at a 1/2 inch from each end of the boxes. And then we're going to cut a triangle. Now, what I do, I don't actually draw the lines anymore. I take it and I fold it in half. Now, this is just what I do. Fold it in half, make sure but I fold it in half from the side so I don't accidentally cut my pocket. We don't want a hole in the pocket. So I will fold it in half. And I will take and make a little nick in the center. And what we'll do, just so you can see, I have made a little nick in the center, and I will cut it down to about 1/2 inch from the end. And do that for both sides to have us a little triangle. Got to make sure you don't snip your stitches from earlier. Okay, so just so you can see. So you see how it's cut? So we're going to do that to the other end, and then we'll do the other pocket. I said, and this is as you get more comfortable. If you're not comfortable with this at this point, what you can do trying to make sure I don't hit those stitches. Then what you can do, I'm going to go ahead and draw this real quick just to show y'all, providing I find a pen that works. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. Okay. And yes, I did just test a pen on the back of the fabric. But one, my bag, and two, nobody's going to see it. And yes, normally you would take like a ruler, but since I didn't bring my ruler, well, I have a ruler over here. If I want to be exact, let's see, exactly halfway in between. If you feel more comfortable doing that. Okay, so I'm drawing a line. And like I said, as you get more experienced, you get where you're more comfortable with that. Okay, and I will show you. So just to show, you can actually draw the line and then you can cut all the way across. So I will cut this one just like the other. So if you feel more comfortable cutting it before you cut it, then go ahead. Nobody's going to say anything about the fact that you're drawing it out to have a cut line. Nobody's going to say anything about that. There's nothing wrong in using tools to help you. Okay. Trim this one. Hope everyone is doing well tonight. That everybody's back in the sewing mojo after finishing up last minute presents and stuff like that. Okay. So now that we have both of ours done, what we're going to do is we're going to actually take our zipper pocket and push it through. For both pockets. So that when we do it, it'll be like that, but we'll take it to the machine and press it to the machine, to this ironing board and press it. So, and I do follow my patterns. Not everybody, even though I've done this one a lot, sometimes it just helps to do that. Okay. So I am going to go over to the ironing board and press this. Try not to give y'all my chair. So I've got 2 pockets to press. So you have, see, I have the other part of this, my strap and stuff like that I won't get to tonight, but will next week. So I'm actually going to press from the back side. And I do that just to make sure everything's pulled through, everything lays flat, got my seams, all that stuff. Okay. Almost got the first one pressed, or at least got the first half pressed. Now this pattern uses a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so you just need to make sure you keep that in mind. Now whenever you're doing a zipper, it is usually a 1/4 inch unless otherwise told, because a lot of times you will have a number 3 zipper versus a number 5, and you cannot do a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance on a number 3 zipper. However, you can on a number 5 zipper. So just heads up that you know what size zipper you're using and what the pattern is asking for. So there's the first one pressed. And I'll get the next one pressed. And I said, this makes it kind of easy because you can do both, and you're like, oh, I've got both, because you will need things done a certain order with this bag. There are parts you can skip ahead. You can go ahead and make your strap. You could go ahead and do that, and it's not going to detract from anything. You could skip ahead and do that if you feel like you was like, oh, I got to have my strap done. Well, that's not an issue. But it is a pretty cut and dry one. It's actually one of my favorite sling bag patterns. I actually am working on my own sling bag pattern as well for quilted stuff. So it's a little different but similar. Some things I like and some things I don't about this one. So something to have in the future. Not sure exactly when. So we have, I'd be curious to know what bag y'all would make to go down to Epic Universe with the Super Mario Land, Harry Potter, Dark Universe, Dragons. Who would you carry? So now we have a nice pretty opening for a zipper tape. Now, one thing you can do is that, and I'm not going to do it because I'm used to doing this without it. You can put 1/8 of an inch wide double-sided tape on either side of the zipper tape. And see, I have a nice, pretty, sparkly zipper tape and my toothless zipper pull. So I'll move you back to the machine to show you what we'll do next. Sorry about that. The temperature can't decide what it wants to be here. So it goes from hot to cold, hot to cold. But since I've had my heat press on today, doesn't matter if it's cold outside, I'm hot. So I've been drinking a lot of water today. So we're going to position our zipper and center it. Now, the size of your zipper and, or should I say the length of your zipper tape and everything is due to the size of your bag. So there is a large and small of this bag. You're going to have different size zippers because the bag's different widths. So just heads up. But that will depend on which bag you're doing. Thank you, Melody. Okay, I'm going to stitch around this. Stitch around the what is it? The box that we have. Stitching around that box. Basically tacking the pocket to the, or should I say that lining piece to our zipper tape, or vice versa, whichever you want to call it. Big thing, make sure you backstitch. That's a big thing. Now, you don't have to use zipper tape. You can use actual zippers that are like Coats and Clark and all that kind of stuff. I just like using the neat pulls and stuff like that, especially for ones for myself. And if you get a chance to look, I'm actually using a variegated blue thread. And actually my webbing for the strap is a variegated blue as well. That's from Dream Big Creations. I'm a huge blue fan. So if there's a chance to use all blue of something, a lot of times I will do that, but this happened to be toothless, so it makes it even better. I'm a huge How to Train Your Dragon fan, have been since it came out 15 years ago. I'm not a new convert to that fandom. It's always kind of been like, there's not a lot of stuff out there for How to Train Your Dragon. Well, makes me so excited to go to that land down at Epic Universe to be able to get some swag from there. So are there any questions right now as to what's going on with this bag? Nothing really super complicated at the moment. So now what we do is we actually trim our zipper tape down to about 1/4 of an inch. Excess. Okay, and as I always say I do, I will actually flame the edges of my not let it keep flaming, but flame the edges so it doesn't shred on me. And you can, one way to know that when you have gotten it where it's melted, you will feel the like almost like it has a little bit of an edge. Okay, so there's the back of our zipper. Here's the front attached. Now what we're going to do now, we are going to take and make the ends meet. Pin our sides together. So we are pinning that together so that we can do that. Now we are not closing up this pocket because we will turn part of the bag out through this pocket. And that will be later. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew this yet again, 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, it's a 1/4 inch seam allowance, but I like actually sewing up where the triangle is. And I'll show you. And that's because I'm not really going to use the space. That way it's outside of my, I can then trim down the sides and it not get in my seams later. So that's a personal preference. That's not something that's required. That's not something that is in the pattern, but that's what I like. So just heads up. But we're going to go all the way down to 1/4 of an inch from the bottom. And then we're going to leave our needle in the, one more stitch. Needle in the machine And we're going to sew over about 1/2 inch and backstitch. And this is just securing that corner. So what I will actually do is I'm going to trim the corner and trim off my excess. And then we're going to flip around and do the same exact thing on the other side. And because we trimmed our zipper tape down, it was not in our seam allowance. Apparently I missed cutting some fabric. Okay. So just to show you the one side, see how we stopped at the bottom? And that's so when we flip it, it will automatically have a seam allowance that you can tuck in and close the pocket. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing, except I'm starting at the bottom this time. Okay. Okay, and we're going to get it to the same point that I had on the other side. Okay, and we're going to go all the way up. Finish sewing that up. Okay, so we have that one done. So I'm going to trim yet again the corner, and I'll go up the side a little bit and trim off the excess. And then I'll show you what it looks like from the front and the back. Okay. So now we can, let me do this real quick. So we have a completed zipper pocket. So there's the front and the back. So if you were to unzip, there's my completed pocket, but that is open. So what I'm going to do, because now we are going to either attach our mesh pocket or our slip pocket, depending on which one we do first, I'm actually going to take my pocket so I don't accidentally sew it, and I'm going to pin it up. I'll take it down once I'm done with all the pockets. This is something that's not necessarily in the pattern, but I have learned the hard way and accidentally sewn my zipper pocket closed or down, whatever, when I put my slip pocket on. So just heads up, once you have it done, pin it out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and do the next one real quick. Get the next zipper tape in, and then we will get the slip pocket and the mesh pocket on, and we're done for tonight. Anyways, so here's my other pocket, and there's the back if you wanted to see what it looks like once it's pressed. So I do have another zipper tape with another toothless. So I promise, yeah, I have a collection of lots of things. We won't even go there. So a lot of times what I do, just so you can see, especially if I'm not using double-sided tape, is that I will actually take it and go, okay, where's my openings? Let's center this sucker right here. So you can see kind of it's centered in between. And then I will lay it on my machine, especially if I'm not double-siding, taping it. Just so I know where it's at to be the evenly dispersed zipper tape. Okay, so I'm going to move y'all back to the machine. Okay. All right, so we are getting that in place. Like I said, depends on my mood as whether I use double-sided tape or not. I don't always. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. it's not in the mood to. Sometimes it's more trouble than it's worth, at least in my case. If you're more novice at sewing zippers, it is highly acceptable to do that, and because then they will lay straight. Well, at least they will if you lay them straight while you stick it. I stuck something and I had to take it out because even with double-sided tape, I put it on crooked. So that's not a fail-safe, but it's a nice perk to that. Okay, so what I do when I do sew this, I move my zipper pull out of the way, even though it's not messing, especially if it's a custom pull. It'll cause, when you have a zipper pull, it will cause there to be a curve in the zipper tape. And sometimes your zipper will get crooked for that. So I move it to and from, like, in other words, so that I'm not sewing right beside a zipper pull. Okay. And that will help you keep your inset zippers a little straighter. I've found that's the case because, like I said, let me grab one. So if you can see the one that we have, when you are moving it, it goes up. So if you look right now, it looks straight because I purposely moved it when I was sewing it. If I hadn't done that, then it could possibly be in the way. And I will tell you, with your zippers, once you've got each zipper pocket done, move your zipper pull to the center so it doesn't accidentally get under your needle and break it. Ask how I know. I've broken several needles that way because I'm not thinking about it. And then when you're sewing all the layers later in the bag, it gets in the way. So, especially when you're sewing at the sides when you're adding the other zippers. So, it gets a little thick. So, as I was saying, I'm coming up to the part where I want to have it straight. So, I will actually take this zipper pull, move it out of my way, and I just keep the same distance from the zipper tape I have been keeping. So it's nice and straight. Okay. Are there any questions so far? Anybody have any concerns? Is there anything people would like me to concentrate on in the next little bit this year? So I'm going to trim my zipper tape down to about 1/4 of an inch. And yet again, I take my little lighter. Now, I've talked about this tool before. That is, I had it charged for this purpose, and I just pulled out my regular lighter because I'm used to it more. This is a little, you can see, it's meant for like lighting candles, but it works great for this too. So just to show you, and sometimes just works just as, it still burns the ends of the threads. So you can see, and it's just like that. You can see the arch of the spark, and then turn it off. But it holds a charge. You can charge it with USB. When I remember to charge it, it's actually just as good or better than the lighter. But I don't always remember to charge it. Lighter's usually there until I run out of fuel for it. So now that that's done, we're going to take and inner pocket again. and get that sewn on both sides. Okay. There's one side pinned. We'll pin the other side. Okay. And we are going to get this sewn. But like I said, this is one of my favorite sling bags. I actually use, I made my husband a Robin Hood one of the larger size when we went down to Disney. And he uses it to go to the gym, to take a change of clothes, shower stuff, and all that. So he has it when he goes to swim in the pool. And then can take a shower afterwards. Okay. So now we're going to do the other side, and then I'll trim both sides. Like I said, this is a 1/4 inch at the bottom. One more stitch there. Okay, so biggest thing, make sure you don't catch your lining piece in your seam. I've done that too. So we just go and we're closing up this pocket. Like I said, we are not closing it up at the bottom all the way because we will flip out part of it through that pocket. And well, you could technically close up the one that's in the front because you don't flip anything through there, but it's better not until the end. But the one that's in the bigger compartment, you flip the entire bag through there. So just to tell you that. So we're going to trim this off. So I just trimmed down my pocket sides just so they don't get caught. And we'll do the other side. Trim the thread. All right. I'm going to trim this. And you notice I just kind of fold my fabric out of the way so I don't accidentally cut it, because I don't have more of that fabric. If I screw something up, then I'm out of luck. Now, I have had that happen before, and then what I do, because it's the inside, if it's not for a customer, then I use whatever. I have done that. So I do double check that my zipper opens cleanly. I always say check it before you get too far along. Like I said, I move it to the center, and then I will take my pocket and pin it out of the way so I don't accidentally sew it. Okay, so that's my 2 pieces set to the side for right now. So where did I put that? There we go. Here's our slip pocket. So our next part is the slip pocket and the mesh pocket. Now the mesh pocket, what I do is I've actually already done this part, is put binding, which is just a piece of part of the fabric. You stitch it to it and then fold it over, and gives you a nice clean finish on the mesh. And then we have our slip pocket. 2 pieces that are the same exact size. One is plain and one that has SF101 on it. Usually you will put the SF101 on the exterior piece. Excuse me. I feel like I'm going to sneeze. I'm trying not to. So I apologize if I do, because I sneeze loud. So what we're going to do we are going to basically do kind of like how we did our other pockets. We're going to put them right sides together. And we're going to sew like how we did on the zipper pocket where we started and had about a 1/2 inch at the bottom. We're actually going to do that at the top. And the reason is what we're going to do is we're going to sew all the way around. And then we're going to flip through that top, press it, and then we'll do a top stitch across that opening. And that closes that opening. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move y'all back to the machine. Excuse me. Now you can pin this if you feel more comfortable. I'll put a couple pins in here just so it doesn't move. Don't need a bunch. Just enough that kind of at each corner. They should be exactly the same size. Should be the operative word. At least that's how I planned them. So let's see. Yeah, that's my top. And if I've had people ask me before, I used about a 2.5 inch, not 2.5 inch, 2.5 stitch length most of the time. Occasionally I'll take it up to 3. I've been sewing on a Place for Everything bag for our customer at the moment. And that I sew at a 3 because I'm doing mostly quilting. So we are going to go around that corner. And we are going around all the sides, leaving an opening at the top, not the bottom. Now you have some places that will, like I know a lot of Lynn's patterns, Lynn's Handmade patterns, they have you leave the opening at the bottom and then you'll close it up when you stitch it down. So Sweetness, Sarah does something a little different by leaving the opening or flipping the opening at the top, doing your top stitch, and then the outsides all being equal. Okay. So we can trim our corners. So we get our nice clean corners. Just make sure not to clip your stitching. Otherwise you're going to be cutting another pocket. Okay. Throw my corners away. We're going to flip it through. Okay. Now this pocket is one that is big enough for a, can't think straight, like your phone or something like that. I might actually add later another set of stitching to have for pins. Because I'm always searching for a pin in my bag, whatever I'm using it for. Okay. So I'm going to poke out my corners with my little handy dandy rainbow stick. Okay. Poke out all 4 corners. Okay. And we do that, and I'm going to take it to the ironing board and press. So I make sure it's nice and flat. And that will close up that hole. All right. Just gonna get this pressed real quick. Gotta let the iron warm up again. And this is where, if you want to fussy cut like your exterior fabric. So, I like my exterior fabric a lot. I want to be able to see it on the inside too. This slip pocket is a great place to do that. And you can fussy cut and say, okay, this is going to be centered in the middle of my pocket. So just so you can see, and just in case I hadn't decided which one I want to do, that's the front back. So I cut it both ways just to make sure. I didn't know which way I wanted it, with Toothless looking up or the Light Fury looking down, but I kind of like that little tail piece of Toothless, so I did this as my front pocket. But I'm going to flip it over. What we're going to do is we're going to top stitch it. That's 1/8 of an inch from the top. All right. We're going to trim this up. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to mark our center. And the best way I've found to mark centers with this is just to fold it in half and just mark it with a straight pin. That's what's great about not having an opening on the bottom that you're having to close up, because then you have all kinds of other issues. And we are going to, all right, so I've got my center. Now it doesn't matter which one of our zipper pockets that we pick. It's just more having, because at this point they're both exactly the same. Depending on which size bag, it'll be if you do 1 inch, 3 inches from the bottom. So I have my center marked on the main bag part already. And I am going to get my slip pocket centered right here. All right, and I moved my little ruler out of the way, and I will pin this down. Okay, I'll pin this down. Now I don't necessarily pin on the bottom, but I do pin the sides, so I make sure it stays flat. And we are going to use 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and so all the way around. Okay, we are going all the way around. So I leave it's a good thing when you're changing directions that you leave your needle down in your fabric to pivot. Now my machine automatically leaves the needle down when I stop because of the type of machine it is. Since it is technically a quilting machine, being the Juki 18QVP, but I know with a singer I use for when I sew zigzag stitches, since this is a straight stitch, I have to actually move my thing to leave my needle in my thing. So we have a completed pocket. So just to show you, welcome, Annette. I still got a little bit left, so you're welcome to stay and watch if you want. So we have one of our lining panels done. Now this will be the front lining panel. The other one will be your back lining panel. Now, like I said, I leave this here. There's our slip pocket. Now tell me that doesn't look cool, having a nice contrasted slip pocket that looks like our outside. So now we're going to do our mesh pocket. Now this is not anything exciting here for the mesh. We take our other panel, we have our mesh pocket, and all this is that I will take my center of my mesh, match it up with the center at the bottom. Now you will be trimming part of this. So I said, what you're doing is you're going to make it the width of the thing. So I'm going to take some clips. I'll move this over so y'all can see what I'm doing. And I've centered it. And you just align it with the bottom. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll actually follow along on each side so I can kind of clip it in place. Now I thought about using a black mesh, but I was like, I'm going to go blue. So all right, so I'm going to base this on. There's not a lot to it. This is probably the most simple of all the pockets, but this is why you have to make sure your zipper pocket is out of the way so that it does not get caught when you're doing all this basting. Now you will have some to trim off at the edge. Okay, so we're going our way around the circle. Or half circle, whatever you want to call it. The bottom of your lining piece. Okay. And I will follow the rest of the way up. Okay. Now, like I said, I am going to actually sew it from the bottom and kind of, so I have mesh pockets that are not gonna, because if you look, it kind of sags. So I'm actually just gonna line up my center here and sew up the mesh to give me 2 pockets instead of 1 mesh pocket. This is not in the pattern, but this is what I want. Let's put it that way. Okay. All right, so just to show you, here is our other pocket. Like I said, I did that, so still plenty of room to fit a full-size hand in. But it holds it up a little better. So what I'm going to do now is I will take my scissors, trim off the excess. You can use a rotary cutter if you want to. But, yeah. So we have both, or 2 of our lining pieces. There actually are 3 lining pieces. The other one is plain. It's what's in between the front pocket and the back pocket. Let me show you using that other bag. So just to show you what I mean. So when you open this, this is your 3rd lining part. So you could actually put another pocket here if you really wanted to. Actually, because I wanted to be extra, when I did this one, I put card slots. So it just depends on what you want. That was something I wanted to do at the time. You can add something extra to that inside part. Just heads up. So you could add another pocket. So tonight where'd I drop the other one? Have 2, oops, I can take that pin out now. 2 inside linings, 1 with mesh pockets, 1 with a slip pocket, with 2 zipper pockets. And that's where I'm going to stop for tonight, and I will see y'all next week. Hope y'all had a very good Christmas.